I grew up in a small town in Jersey called Port Reading, and all the men were veterans. World War One, World War Two, like my father. World War One, like my grandfather. My uncles were in Korea, and I knew it was my responsibility as an American to serve. When I was a little kid, I used to watch The Big Picture on Saturday morning. I turned 19 when I was at Paris Island, and the drill instructor let me have a cupcake for my birthday. And that was only because he won 2 cases of beer because I outshot everybody in the whole company on the rifle. And I shot on a rifle team before I was in the Marine Corps. So I had the advantage. I was the high shooter in the entire company. I outshot 240 Marines on qualification day. And I was meritoriously promoted.
To PFC.
Yeah. And then Hue City, it was on February 6, 1968, during the Tet Offensive. Hue was the dirtiest, nastiest, longest battle of the Vietnam War. And we went in on February the 2nd. We were sent in there. They sent 2,500 Marines in there, a company at a time, and there was 11,000 North Vietnamese regulars, an unknown number of Viet Cong. So, we don't know how many Viet Cong were there, but we know there were 11,000 because General Giap, the head of, the North Vietnamese army, told us later on that he had 11,000 people there and we had killed 5,000. But my platoon of 27 Marines, every platoon was short-handed. My platoon of 27 Marines, 11 were killed in the city, and the rest of us were wounded 2 and 3 times. I made it to February 11th when I took a deep wound in the forearm, and my right hand wouldn't work. I was medevaced out. But on February 14th, there was nobody left. Everybody in the platoon was either killed or wounded, and some of us wounded 2, 3 times apiece. The other Marine was in the street moaning that he was shot in the chest, and everybody knows me as Chief. Often we didn't know anybody's real names. Everybody had a nickname. So Lieutenant Meyer said, "Chief, can you get him?" I started down the driveway to go get him from the street, and bullets hit the corner of this garage, and a piece of brick came back and stuck under my left eye like an arrowhead. I shed my gear, even my flak jacket. I went through the hedges. I grabbed his arm, started to pull him back, and he was screaming that I was tearing his arm off. So I dropped down next to him. I had him between me and them. I figured he's already shot. I said, "Be still. Every time you thrash around, they shoot." So I stuck my hand out real quick into the sleeve of his flak jacket, and I picked him up with one hand. I threw him over the hedges like a rag doll. Adrenaline is a wonderful thing where you've got like 20 people shooting at you from a 2-story building. I threw him over the top of the hedges. 5 years ago, I got a call on a Sunday morning. "Are you Walter Kaczmarek?" I said, "Yeah." "Were you in the Marine Corps in 1968? "Yeah." "Were you in the battle for Hue City?" "Yeah." He says, "It was my husband you pulled off the street. They tracked me down. 50 years later, they tracked me down." And then she put him on the phone. Mm. He took care of the finances for Anheuser-Busch in St. Louis, and then when he retired from there, he lives in Virginia Beach area now. But I had no idea who he was. But they gave me the Bronze Star for that. I'm very proud of it. I do a lot of talks at schools, so I have no problem addressing people. I've had people tell me, "If you were really in the war, you wouldn't be able to talk about it." I says, "No, everybody's different." And so I've been doing these talks since 1969, and I do about 15 to 20 a year. "Where did you get shot? Can we see?" I show them the big scar on my back. "And how did you live through that?" I said, "By the grace of God. That's how I lived through it." And they said, "Did you kill anybody during the war?" And I have a stock line. I said, "Killing was the business of the Marine Corps, and I was a good businessman." Mm-hmm. I tell them the pride lasts forever. I said, especially among Marines, but the pride lasts forever. I said, when we see one another Marines, we always greet each other, "Semper Fi, brother," because every Marine is my brother and now or my sister. I was very fortunate. I took a massive wound in the left shoulder. It shattered my shoulder blade and crushed 3 ribs in. When I hit the ground, I hit in my elbow, and the humerus, big bone in the upper arm, pushed out of the hole. It was like a big silver pearl in my eye. And I ended up going through the hospital system again.